I noticed the envelope because it didn't belong. That's how these things begin, not with shouting, not with doors slamming, but with something small enough to ignore if you're the kind of man who still believes in the basic decency of his own family. A white envelope, thick paper, no window, no familiar bank logo or insurance header, just a return address in neat black print. Jefferson County Records Office. I hadn't requested anything from the county. At 72, the county usually requested things from me: property taxes, signatures, patience. I set the kettle on the stove, the old enamel one with the chipped blue edge. Martha used to complain about it. Henry, for God's sake, you paid off a $300,000 mortgage and you're still boiling water like a factory worker in 1985. I never replaced it. Now, I'm glad I didn't. It's one of the few things in the house that still sounds like her, whistling sharp and irritated when the water's ready. I poured the tea. 2 sugars. Doctor says 1. Doctor doesn't sit alone in a quiet kitchen at 7:10 a.m. with a refrigerator that clicks like a metronome marking the seconds of a life that got smaller when nobody was looking. I sat down. The envelope stayed where it was. You learn, after burying your wife, that some things can wait a minute longer. Eventually, I opened it with a letter opener Daniel gave me for Christmas in 2016. Stainless steel, engraved, world's best ad. Funny how objects outlive the truth they were meant to represent. Inside was a single document, property record update notification. I read it once, then again. Then I adjusted my glasses and read it a third time, slower. Sometimes your mind doesn't fail you. It protects you. Owner, Henry Wallace. Owner, Daniel Wallace. I didn't react immediately. That's something people misunderstand about anger at my age. It doesn't explode, it settles. Like dust, like ash. I placed the paper flat on the table. My tea cooled untouched. Daniel Wallace. My son. I have signed many documents in my life. Thousands. Work orders, safety certifications, loan agreements, mortgage papers. I remember June 14, 2008, like it's pinned to the inside of my skull. That was the day I made the final payment on this house. $312,000 over 21 years. Interest that felt like a second mortgage layered on top of the first. Martha cried that day, right here at this table. It's ours now, she said. No one can touch it. Daniel didn't come. He had what he called a business trip. Later turned out to be a weekend in Las Vegas that cost him more than he admitted and me more than I ever got back. But I signed that deed myself. I remember the notary's name, Linda Carver. Red lipstick, cheap perfume. June heat pressing through the office windows. There was one name on that document, mine. I stood up slowly, joints protesting like they always do in the morning. The living room still smelled faintly of furniture polish and old paper. I keep things in order. Always have. Chaos is expensive. Top shelf of the cabinet. Blue plastic container labeled in Martha's handwriting. House/tax/important. I open it. Folders aligned. Tabs intact. Dates in sequence. I pulled out the original deed. There it was. Stamped. Signed. Notarized. Henry Wallace. Only I went back to the kitchen and sat down again. My heart was steady. That bothered me more than panic would have. The phone sat beside the document. Old Motorola. Solid. Reliable. Doesn't update itself in the middle of a conversation like those glass toys people carry now. I dialed Daniel. He picked up on the 4th ring. Yeah. No, Dad. No greeting. Just a sound, like I'd interrupted something mildly important. Daniel, I said. I received a notice from the county. A pause. Short. Controlled. Oh, that, he said. Yeah, I was going to tell you. Going to. Timing, I've learned, reveals more than words. Explain, I said. I kept my voice level. I spent 45 years working at a power plant. You don't raise your voice around high voltage. You lower it and make people listen. It's just paperwork, he said quickly. Estate planning. If something happens to you, everything transfers smoothly. No probate, no delays. I'm actually saving you money here. Saving me money. That was new. And when did I sign this? I asked. Another pause. Longer this time. We talked about it, he said. Last year, after Mom passed. He always brings her into it when he needs leverage. We talked, I said. I did not sign. A sigh. Irritation bleeding through now. Dad, come on. You said you wanted things simple. I handled it. That's what I'm trying to do, help. Help. There are words that rot from the inside. That's one of them. Who notarized it? I asked. What? The signature. Who verified it? Why does that matter? Because I'm asking. I stood and walked to the window. The backyard looked the same. Hose coiled badly. Fence leaning slightly left. Small neglects. They add up if you let them. It's standard procedure, he said. I paid for it too, by the way. About $2,000 in legal fees. You're welcome. There it was. The bill. Gratitude apparently was expected. For what exactly, Daniel? I asked quietly. For adding yourself to an $840,000 property. Silence. Then defensive. I grew up in that house. It's mine too. I closed my eyes. Yes, he grew up here. He also crashed my car in 1999 $6 for 100 in repairs. Borrowed $25,000 in 2012 for a business opportunity. Gone in 6 months. Legal fees during his divorce. $18,700. Mine, not his. Strange how memory works. It keeps receipts. We'll discuss this, I said. Now's not a good time, he replied quickly. I've got a meeting in 20 minutes. Of course he did. We'll discuss it today, I repeated. I hung up before he could answer. The kitchen felt quieter than before. The tea had formed that thin film on top, the one Martha always skimmed off with a spoon, precise and patient. I looked down at the document again. 2 names. One of them didn't belong. I ran my finger across the line. Daniel Wallace. It sat there confidently, as if it had always been there, as if time itself had agreed. I leaned back in my chair and let out a slow breath. Well, I said to the empty room. My voice sounded calm, almost polite. Let's find out how you manage that. And more importantly, how quickly it can be undone. I didn't rush. That's the advantage of age. People expect you to be slow, confused, maybe even a little lost. It gives you time, and time, used properly, is sharper than anger. If you believe older voices still matter, support this channel with a like and a subscription. I cleared the table first. The tea went into the sink. The cup rinsed and placed upside down. The document, I didn't crumple it, didn't slam it, didn't even fold it. I laid it flat beside the original deed, like 2 photographs of the same person taken years apart. One honest, the other altered. Then I went to my desk. The desk sits in the corner of the living room, facing the window. Oak, heavy, bought in 1994 for $1,200, which at the time felt irresponsible. Martha had laughed when I brought it home. You're planning to outlive this thing? I'm planning to outwork it, I told her. Turns out, outlived her instead. The desk stayed. Top drawer, notebooks, pens, a calculator with fading buttons. Bottom drawer, files I don't trust anyone else to handle. I took out a yellow legal pad and wrote one word at the top. When, underneath it, how, and then who. Simple questions, expensive answers. I started with the date. The county notice was stamped February 3rd, 2026. Today was March 20th. That meant the change had been sitting in the system for over 6 weeks. 6 weeks. Not a mistake, then. Not a rush decision. Something planned, executed, and left to settle. Like concrete. I turned to the document again. There it was in smaller print. Recording date, January 28th, 2026. Instrument number, 2026-014882. I wrote it down. January 28th. I tried to remember that day. Cold morning. I had gone to the hardware store, bought a replacement valve for the upstairs sink. Receipt was probably still in the kitchen drawer. I remember the cashier. Young girl with a nose ring. Couldn't count change without the screen telling her how. No memory of signing anything. No notary. No office. No pen in my hand, which meant one of 2 things. Either I had signed something without understanding it, or I hadn't signed anything at all. I reached for the phone again. This time not Daniel. Jefferson County Records. A woman answered after 2 rings. Professional voice. Neutral. The kind that doesn't take sides, only information. Good morning, I said. My name is Henry Wallace. I need to verify a property record. Do you have the instrument number, sir? I do. I read it slowly. She typed. I could hear it. The steady rhythm of someone who's done this 10,000 times. Yes, I see it, she said. Property transfer, partial ownership edition. Recorded January 28th. On what basis? I asked. A quitclaim deed, sir. I wrote it down. Quitclaim. The cheapest, fastest way to transfer interest in property. No guarantees. No questions. Just a signature and a notary willing to stamp it. How was it submitted? I asked. Electronically filed through a licensed title service. Of course it was. That costs money. Not a lot, but enough to leave a trail. Can I get a copy of the document? I asked. You can access it online or request a certified copy for $18. I'll take both, I said. She gave me the website. I wrote it down carefully, each letter deliberate. Before hanging up, I asked one more question. The notary, I said. Can you see the name? Pause. Typing again. Yes. Notary Public, Eric Dalton. I underlined it twice. Eric Dalton. I didn't know an Eric Dalton, which meant Daniel did. The computer took its time booting up. It always does. Old Dell Tower. Humming like it resents being woken. I don't replace things unless they break. That includes people, apparently. I navigated to the county website. The interface looked like it hadn't been updated since 2010. Good. Systems like that are honest in their laziness. Instrument number. Search. The document appeared. I clicked. There it was. A scanned PDF. Slightly crooked. Black and white. Official. Quitclaim deed. Grantor. Henry Wallace. Grantee. Henry Wallace and Daniel Wallace. As joint tenants with right of survivorship. I read every line. Legal description of the property. Accurate. Parcel number correct. Address mine. Then I reached the signature. I leaned closer. At first glance it looked right. Same looping H. Same long tail on the W. But signatures are like faces. You recognize them instantly when they're real, and something feels wrong when they're not. I have signed my name thousands of times. Checks, forms, contracts. This one was careful. Too careful. The H was slightly tighter than usual. The spacing between first and last name, off by a fraction. The line pressure inconsistent. Someone had practiced. I sat back. Well, I muttered. That answered one question. Now, for the next. The notary section sat beneath the signature. State of Colorado County off Jefferson. Subscribed and sworn before me on this 28th day of January, 2026. Eric Dalton, Notary Public. Commission number. 7834491. There was a stamp. A seal. Clean. Professional. Too clean. Notaries are supposed to verify identity. Driver's license. Physical presence. A signature made in front of him, which meant one of two things. Either I had been present and didn't remember, or Eric Dalton had verified something that never happened. Both options were expensive for someone. I picked up the phone again. This time, Daniel answered faster. What now? He said. No greeting again, just impatience. I have the document in front of me, I said. Silence. You used a quitclaim deed, I continued. January 28th, Notary Eric Dalton. A longer silence this time. Then, yeah, he said. Such a small word. Carries a lot of weight when you don't care who it lands on. I wasn't there, I said. You signed it, he replied quickly. No, I said. I didn't. You must have forgotten. I smiled, not because it was funny, because it was predictable. I remember paying off a $300,000 mortgage in 2008, I said. I remember the serial number of my first toolbox. I remember the exact amount you borrowed in 2012 and never repaid. I let that sit. I would remember signing away half my house. His tone hardened. Why are you making this a big deal? He snapped. It's just paperwork. It doesn't change anything. It changes ownership, I said. It's still your house. For now, I replied. That landed. I could hear it. Look, he said, softer now, but not kinder. You're overreacting. This is what families do. We plan ahead. Families don't forge documents, I said. Silence. Real silence this time. Then, be careful what you're accusing me of, he said quietly. There it was. Not denial, not explanation, a warning. I looked at the signature again, the careful loops, the practiced hand. I'm being very careful, I said, and I hung up. The house felt different after that. Same walls, same furniture, same quiet hum of appliances. But something had shifted, like discovering a crack in the foundation, not visible from the outside, but running deep enough to matter. I folded the printed document and placed it beside the original deed, real and imitation. Then I picked up the legal pad again and added a new word under the others. Proof. Because suspicion is just noise without it. And I had a feeling this was about to get very loud. Proof is an unpleasant thing. People like to think truth is enough. It isn't. Truth is quiet. It sits in a corner, waiting. Proof walks into a room and rearranges the furniture. I started with the bank. At 10:40 a.m., I was sitting across from a young man named Trevor who wore a tie too tight for his neck and confidence too loose for his experience. The branch hadn't changed much, same beige walls, same faint smell of carpet cleaner and stale ambition. "Mr. Wallace," he said, smiling the kind of smile they train into you. "How can I assist you today?" Assist. Another one of those words. "I need a full transaction history," I said. "Last 6 months. Checking and savings." He blinked. "Of course. We can print that for you." "And any loans," I added. "Lines of credit. Anything tied to my property." That slowed him down. "Your property?" he repeated. "Yes." He typed. The keyboard clicked softly. His smile faded just a fraction. "Just a moment, sir." I nodded and leaned back in the chair. The vinyl creaked under my weight. Across the room, an elderly couple argued quietly over a checkbook. I recognized the tone. 40 years of marriage compressed into numbers that never quite added up. Trevor cleared his throat. "Mr. Wallace, did you recently authorize a home equity line of credit?" There it was. I didn't react. Not outwardly. "No," I said. He turned the monitor slightly, not fully. Just enough to show cooperation without breaking protocol. "Hellick, approved February 2nd, 2026. Credit limit, $250,000. Current balance, $198,400. I stared at the numbers. They didn't shock me. They settled into place. Like the last piece of a puzzle you didn't want to complete. "Who's the co-signer?" I asked. He hesitated. "Daniel Wallace," he said. "Of course." I nodded slowly. "Print everything," I said. I took the papers home and spread them across the dining table. Statements, transfers, withdrawals. It's amazing how quickly money moves when it isn't yours. February 3rd, $50,000 transfer. Dalton Consulting, LLC. February 5th, $27,800. Auto purchase. Mercedes-Benz of Denver. February 9th, $15,200. Credit card payoff. February 14th, $82,000. Wire transfer. West Peak Investments. Valentine's Day. That one almost made me laugh. Romantic in a way, spending someone else's retirement. I sat there for a long time. The house was quiet except for the ticking clock on the wall. Martha bought it in 1998, so the sound made the house feel alive. Now it sounded like a countdown. I called Margaret at 1:15 p.m. She's been my accountant for 18 years. The kind of woman who doesn't waste words or tolerate stupidity, which is probably why we get along. "Henry," she said. "Everything okay?" "No," I said. "I need you to come over." She arrived at 2:05. Exactly on time. Gray suit, leather folder. No nonsense. We sat at the table. I pushed the papers toward her. She read silently. 1 page, 2, 3. Her expression didn't change much, but I've learned to read small shifts. The tightening around the eyes. The way her pen stopped tapping. "This is fraud," she said finally. I nodded. "Forgery specifically," she added. "And financial exploitation." "Total?" I asked. She flipped through the pages again. Faster this time. "Roughly 200,000 already used," she said. "And access to another 50. I exhaled slowly. $250,000. $250,000. Not stolen in the dark. Not hacked. Not lost. Taken. With paperwork. "Why didn't the bank stop it?" I asked. "They didn't have a reason to," she said. "Legally, he's on the deed now. That gives him leverage. Enough to open a Hellick with the right documentation. Documentation I didn't sign." "Doesn't matter until you prove that," she replied. There it was again. Proof. She closed the folder. "You need a lawyer," she said. "And you need to go to the county office in person. Today, if possible." "I will," I said. She hesitated, then added, "Henry, this isn't just about money." I looked at her. "I know," I said. Daniel called at 3:47 p.m. I let it ring twice before answering. "What did you do?" he demanded. "Straight to it. No pretense. I went to the bank, I said. Silence. Then, you had no right. It's my house, I interrupted. My accounts. My name. You're going to ruin everything, he snapped. That word again. Everything. I looked down at the statements spread across the table. The neat columns of numbers. The evidence of choices. You already did that, I said. You don't understand, he said quickly. This is temporary. I'm investing. It's going to pay off. Whose money? I asked. Ours, he almost said. I could hear it forming. My money, I answered for him. You'll get it back, he insisted. With interest. I almost admired the confidence. You said that in 2012, I said. He didn't respond, because we both remembered. His tone changed then, softer, calculated. Dad, don't do anything stupid, he said. I smiled. At 72, people assume you've already done all your stupid things. Too late, I said. I raised you. Silence. Then anger. Fine, he said. You want to make this ugly? We can make it ugly. I'm not making anything, I replied. I'm correcting it. You think you can just remove me, he said. It doesn't work like that. I glanced at the document again. The signature. The notary. Eric Dalton. No, I said. It doesn't. I paused. But forgery does. That landed. Hard. Be very careful, he said quietly. I am, I replied, and I hung up. The house felt heavier that evening. Same walls. Same furniture. But now every object had a number attached to it. The table $2, $300. The cabinets $14, 000 renovation in 2011. The roof $18, 600. Replaced after the storm in 2018. A lifetime of costs, of decisions, of discipline, converted into collateral. I stood in the living room and looked around slowly. Martha's chair, still by the window, the cushion slightly worn on one side. She used to sit there in the evenings reading. You trust him too much, she said once. Years ago, I didn't listen. Trust is expensive, and I had just received the bill. At 6:10 p.m., I gathered the documents. Original deed, forged deed, bank statements, notes. I placed them in a leather folder I hadn't used in years. Tomorrow morning, I would go to the county office, not to argue, not to shout, but to do something far more dangerous. Fix the record, because once the record changes, everything else follows. The county building hadn't changed since 1998. Same dull, brick exterior. Same flag out front that never quite reached the top of the pole. Same parking lot with faded white lines that suggested order more than enforced it. I parked in spot 14. I remembered noticing the number. It felt appropriate, though I didn't yet know why. Inside, the air smelled like paper and old decisions. Government buildings always do. I took a number from the small machine near the entrance. A 117. The screen on the wall read, a 113, for people ahead of me. I sat down in one of the plastic chairs. Hard, slightly uneven, designed, I think, to discourage comfort. To my left, a young couple argued in hushed tones over what sounded like a marriage license. To my right, an older man filled out a form with exaggerated care, pressing the pen so hard I could hear it scratching through the paper. Life reduced to paperwork. My turn came faster than expected. A117, the speaker crackled. I stood, picked up my folder, and walked to window 3. The woman behind the glass looked to be in her early 50s. Reading glasses low on her nose, hair pulled back tight. Efficient. Good morning, she said without looking up. How can I help you? Property records, I said, sliding the folder under the glass. That got her attention. She looked up, took in my face, then the folder. What specifically, she asked. I need to verify and correct a recorded deed, I said. She opened the folder. Original deed first, then the recorded quitclaim. Her eyes moved quickly, practiced, then she paused. That's when I knew. What's the issue, she asked. I didn't sign that, I said, tapping the quitclaim deed. She looked at me again, longer this time. You're saying the signature isn't yours? I'm saying it looks like mine, I replied. But it isn't. A small shift in her posture. Professional, but alert now. Do you have identification? I slid my driver's license under the glass. She compared it to the document, then typed something into her system. Do you know the notary listed here, she asked. Eric Dalton, I said. No. She nodded slowly. All right, she said. Give me a moment. She stood up and disappeared through a door behind her. I waited. The clock on the wall ticked loudly. 09:12 a.m. A man at window 1 laughed at something. Someone coughed. Papers shuffled. Normal sounds. But underneath them, something else was moving. 10 minutes passed. Then she returned. With someone else. A man this time. Mid-60s. Gray suit. No smile. "Mr. Wallace?" he asked. "Yes. I'm Robert Klein, record supervisor." Of course he was. "I understand you're disputing a recorded deed," he said. "I'm correcting it," I replied. A flicker of something in his eyes. Not annoyance. Not yet. "Walk me through it," he said. So I did. Not quickly. Not emotionally. I laid it out the way I used to explain system failures at the plant. Date. Document. Signature. Notary. Financial activity. Cause and effect. By the time I finished, the room felt quieter. Klein looked down at the papers, then at the screen, then back at me. "Do you have reason to believe this was filed without your consent?" he asked. "Yes," I said. "Do you have reason to believe the signature was forged?" "Yes." He nodded once, then turned to the clerk. "Pull the notary record," he said. She typed. A few seconds later, she frowned. "That's strange," she said. "What?" Klein asked. She turned the screen slightly so he could see. "Eric Dalton's commission expired December 31st, 2025. Silence. The room didn't actually go quiet, but it felt like it did. The date on the deed. January 28th, 2026. Almost a month later. Klein exhaled slowly. "Well," he said. One word, but it carried weight. He looked at me again. Different now. Not as a customer. As a problem that needed solving. "Mr. Wallace," he said, "if a notary's commission was expired at the time of acknowledgement, the document is questionable." "Questionable," I repeated. He gave a small, tight smile. "Legally defective," he corrected. Better. What happened next was not dramatic. No shouting. No confrontation. Just process. Forms were printed. Statements signed. An affidavit of fraudulent conveyance. I wrote my name 3 times. Each one felt heavier than the last, but also cleaner, like correcting a line drawn in the wrong place. Klein reviewed everything. Then he looked at the clock. 9:26 a.m. He nodded to the clerk. "Process the correction," he said. She began typing. Fast. Efficient. Keys clicking like a countdown. I stood there, hands resting on the counter. Not shaking. Not clenched. Just waiting. At 9:40 a.m., she stopped. Turned to Klein. "It's done." He looked at the screen, then at me. "The fraudulent deed has been flagged and removed from active record," he said. "Ownership reverts to the last verified valid document." I didn't speak. Didn't need to. He slid a printed confirmation under the glass. I looked at it. Owner, Henry Wallace. One name. The right one. 14 minutes? I said. Klein checked the clock again. 9:26 to 9:40. He nodded. 14 minutes, he confirmed. Funny. 6 weeks to create the problem. 14 minutes to erase it. As I gathered my papers, my phone buzzed. Daniel, of course. I stepped outside before answering. The air was cold, sharp. "What did you do?" he shouted the second I picked up. No greeting. No restraint. "I fixed the record," I said. "You had no right." "I had every right," I interrupted. "It's my name." "You just destroyed everything," he snapped. "The bank." "Do you have any idea what you've done?" "I have a very clear idea," I said. Silence. Then lower. "You think this is over?" I looked up at the flag outside the building. Still not quite at the top. "No," I said. "It's just beginning." I hung up. I stood there for a moment, folder in hand, breathing steady. The house was still mine, legally, completely, but something else had shifted. Because removing his name from the deed didn't remove, he had already done. The money was still gone. The debt still existed. And now there would be consequences. I got into my car, started the engine, and for the first time since opening that envelope, I allowed myself a small, quiet thought. Now he pays. The bank called me at 11:18 a.m. Not a person at first, just a recorded voice, polite and hollow, asking me to confirm my identity. I did, slowly, carefully, pressed each button like it mattered. Because now it did. "Mr. Wallace?" A man came on the line. Older voice, controlled, the kind that belongs to someone who deals with problems for a living. "Yes." This is Richard Haynes, Senior Risk Officer at First Mountain Bank. We need to discuss your home equity line of credit. Of course we did. I imagine you do, I said. A pause. We've received notice from the county records office, he continued. The deed used to secure the HELOC has been flagged as invalid. Correct. Another pause. Longer this time. That creates complications, he said. There it was. The polite version of a mess. For whom? I asked. He didn't answer immediately. For all parties involved, he said finally. I almost smiled. That's not accurate, I replied. I didn't authorize the loan. I didn't sign the deed. I didn't receive the funds. Silence. Then, we're aware of that claim. Claim. Interesting word. I filed an affidavit, I said. Fraudulent conveyance. You'll have a copy by the end of the day. I see. Papers shuffled on his end. I could hear it. The quiet sound of someone recalculating risk. The funds have already been disbursed, he said. Approximately $198,000. I saw the statements. And those funds are withdrawn by your son. Not a question. No, I said. They were withdrawn by someone who committed fraud. Another silence. He understood. They always do, eventually. What are you expecting from the bank, Mr. Wallace? He asked. A fair question. Accuracy, I said. And accountability. He exhaled slowly. We will need to open a formal investigation, he said. This may involve freezing accounts, pursuing recovery, and potentially referring the matter to law enforcement. Good, I said. That seemed to surprise him. Good, he repeated. Yes, I said, because I intend to do the same. Daniel arrived at 2:32 p.m. No call, no warning, just the sound of tires in the driveway and a car door slammed harder than necessary. I was in the kitchen, same place where this started. Funny how things circle back. The door opened without knocking. He walked in fast, angry, red in the face in a way that reminded me of when he was 12 and got caught lying about breaking a neighbor's window. Only now, the window cost $200,000. What did you do? He demanded. Same question as before. Different tone. I corrected a mistake, I said. That wasn't a mistake, he snapped. That was a plan. I looked at him, really looked. 47 years old, expensive jacket, cheap temper, eyes that never quite held steady when the truth was nearby. Whose plan? I asked. He didn't answer. Because we both knew. You had no right to go behind my back like that, he said, pacing now. You completely blindsided me. I let that sit for a moment. Then, you added yourself to my house, I said. You took a loan against it. You spent nearly $200,000. I paused. And I'm the one who blindsided you? He stopped pacing. That money was an investment, he said. You don't understand how this works. No, I said. I understand exactly how it works. I tapped the stack of papers on the table. You take something that isn't yours, I continued. You dress it up with paperwork, and you hope no one looks too closely. His jaw tightened. You're overreacting, he said. This is fixable. Is it? I asked. Yes, he said quickly. Just put the deed back the way it was. We can restructure the loan. I'll handle it. There it was. Not regret, not apology, a proposal. I almost admired the consistency. No, I said. Just one word. It landed harder than shouting ever could. His expression changed. Not anger this time. Something colder. You're going to ruin me, he said quietly. I considered that. Then I shook my head. No, I said. You did that yourself. Silence stretched between us. Heavy. Real. Do you have any idea what happens now? He asked. Yes, I said. I stood up slowly. My knees complained, but I ignored them. The bank investigates, I continued. They trace the funds. They reverse what they can. They document what they can't. I took a step closer, and then they ask a very simple question. He didn't move. Who signed the documents? His eyes flickered, just for a second. But it was enough. You think you can prove anything? He said. I smiled, not kindly. The notary's license expired a month before your document was signed, I said. That's not subtle, Daniel. He froze, actually froze. For the first time since he walked in, he didn't have an immediate answer. That means one of two things, I continued. Either the notary committed fraud, or you did. I let that settle. And I don't think Eric Dalton is the one who spent $82,000 on investments on Valentine's Day. The silence that followed was different, not empty. Final. He looked around the kitchen, at the table, the cabinets, the walls, the house. For a moment, I wondered what he saw. Opportunity? Loss? Or just the end of something he thought he controlled? "You're my father," he said finally. "Yes," I replied. That word carried weight. "Still. And this is how you treat me?" I nodded slowly. "This," I said, "is how I stop you." He left without another word. No slammed door this time. Just a quiet exit. Somehow worse. At 6:45 p.m., I sat in the living room. Martha's chair was still by the window. The light was fading outside, turning the glass into a mirror. I could see myself in it. An old man, tired, but clear. The phone rang once more. "Margaret, it's moving fast," she said without greeting. The bank flagged the account. "They're preparing a fraud report." "Good," I said. "And Henry," she added softer now, "this is going to get legal, possibly criminal." I looked at the reflection again, at the house behind me, at the life inside it. "I know," I said. I hung up. The room was quiet, but not empty, not anymore, because for the first time since that envelope arrived, everything was exactly where it was supposed to be. And for Daniel, the bill had finally come due. The letter arrived 3 weeks later. Certified mail, red stamp, signature required. I signed for it at 10:12 a.m. The same way I've signed for hundreds of things in my life. Packages, documents, confirmations. This time, I took an extra second to look at the signature. Mine, unmistakably. Funny how you learn to appreciate your own handwriting when someone tries to steal it. I sat at the kitchen table before opening it. Same table, same chair. Morning light coming in at the same angle Martha used to complain about because it showed every scratch in the wood. "Henry, one day you'll sand this down." I never did. I like seeing where things have been. The envelope contained 3 documents. The first was from the bank. Notice of loan termination and fraud determination. Clean language. Precise. The HELOC had been voided. Declared unauthorized. The remaining balance. Frozen pending recovery proceedings. Translation, not my debt. I placed it to the left. The second document was heavier. Legal letterhead. District Attorney's Office, Jefferson County. That one I read slower. An investigation had been opened. Charges under review. Forgery, fraudulent conveyance. Financial exploitation of an elderly person. They like long phrases for simple things. Stealing. I placed that one in the center. The third document was the simplest. Typed. No letterhead. Just a single page. From Daniel. "Dad, this went too far. You didn't have to involve the bank, or the county, or anyone else. We could have handled this privately. Now everything is frozen. My accounts, the investments, everything. They're talking about charges. Criminal charges. You don't understand what that means for me. Call me." No apology. Not a single one. I read it twice. Not because it was complicated, but because I wanted to be sure I hadn't missed something. I hadn't. I folded the paper once, neatly, placed it on the right side of the table. 3 piles. Bank. Law. Son. Each one telling the same story from a different angle. At 1:30 p.m., the phone rang. I knew who it was before I picked it up. "Dad," Daniel said. The word sounded unfamiliar, like something he found in an old drawer and decided to use again. "I received your letter," I said. "Then you know how serious this is," he replied quickly. "They're overreacting. This is a family matter." I looked at the documents in front of me. "No," I said. "It stopped being a family matter when you filed a false deed." Silence. Then frustration. "You're going to let them destroy my life over paperwork," he said. "Paperwork." I almost smiled. "You destroyed it over paperwork," I replied. He exhaled sharply. "Okay," he said. "Fine. Let's be practical." There it was again. Always practical. Never honest. "I can fix this," he continued. "I'll return what I can. We'll settle with the bank. You can tell them it was a misunderstanding." I leaned back in my chair. The clock ticked behind me. Steady. Patient. "How much can you return?" I asked. Pause. "Some of it," he said. "How much?" I repeated. Another pause. "Not all of it," he admitted. "Of course not. Money moves fast when it isn't yours. And the rest?" I asked. "I'll figure it out," he said. "I just need time." Time. He always needed time. In 2012. In 2016. In 2019. Time, it turns out, is the most expensive loan of all. "I gave you time," I said. You're my father, he snapped. That's what fathers do. I closed my eyes for a moment. Martha's voice came back to me, clear, uninvited. One day he'll confuse love with permission. She was right. No, I said quietly. That's what I used to do. Silence. Heaven. Final. So that's it, he asked. You're just going to let this happen? I opened my eyes, looked at the house around me, the walls I paid for, the floors I repaired, the quiet I learned to live with. I'm not letting anything happen, I said. I'm stepping out of the way. He didn't respond immediately. When he did, his voice was different. Not angry, not confident, smaller. You're choosing a bank over your son, he said. I shook my head, even though he couldn't see it. No, I said. I'm choosing the truth over a lie. He hung up. No goodbye. That evening, I made dinner. Simple. Eggs, toast, black coffee. I ate at the table, alone, like I have for the past 4 years. But something had changed. The silence felt earned, not empty, just quiet. After dinner, I walked through the house. Living room, hallway, stairs. I stopped in front of Martha's chair, ran my hand along the fabric. You were right, I said. The room didn't answer. It never does. But I felt it anyway. Before going to bed, I took the 3 documents and placed them in the blue container. House/tax/important. Martha's handwriting. Still neat. Still certain. I added a new label beneath it. In my own hand, truth. At 10:03 p.m., I turned off the lights. The house settled around me. Familiar sounds. Old structure. Still standing. Still mine. Not just on paper, but in fact. Some people think justice is loud. Courtrooms. Arguments. Verdicts. It isn't. Sometimes it's quiet. Sometimes it's a name removed from a line. A record corrected. A lie that doesn't hold. Daniel thought ownership could be added with ink. He was wrong. Because, in the end, a name on paper is easy to write, but very hard to deserve. If you believe older voices still matter, support this channel with a like and a subscription.